The nation will debate the not guilty verdict in the George Zimmerman trial for years to come. So many people are passionate about this case on both sides. Joining us to talk more about what this verdict means and where the case will go from here are attorneys Jenny Myers, whose area of expertise is in family and criminal law, and former law enforcement officer turned defense attorney Lance LoRusso. So this verdict really didn't surprise a lot of people. Let's begin with you, Jenny. You are a former prosecutor. What was your reaction?
I wasn't surprised at all, actually. I think that the state didn't put up a very good case. They did the best with what they had, but unfortunately I think the investigation leading up to the actual case itself just was not handled as well as it could have been.
So investigators did some botching, which led to a weak case to begin with.
I think so.
All right, Mr. LoRusso, what are some of your reactions? Because I understood that you saw this coming.
Yeah, the second-degree murder charge, I think, was overcharged. The only other verdict other than not guilty that I thought might come out is a hung jury on the manslaughter. Manslaughter is a tough issue for people to wrestle with, especially folks who are not accustomed to the law. And if you get on the internet, you can hear people now talking about it. And when they came back with a question yesterday on manslaughter, it didn't surprise me at all.
Now, you have said that George Zimmerman followed procedure as he pursued Trayvon Martin. Explain that to us.
I set up a lot of neighborhood watch programs when I was working in the police department, and a lot of people are comparing George Zimmerman's actions in a neighborhood watch to somebody being, say, in an apartment complex or a housing complex. There's nothing improper and certainly nothing illegal with somebody walking to try to give information, updated information and whereabouts to law enforcement. So there was a lot made of the fact that he was following him at all that certainly wasn't illegal, and I think the jury saw that.
Ms. Myers, did you even see a manslaughter case here?
Personally, I did. Based on my knowledge of the case and following along, I thought manslaughter was the most likely outcome if there was going to be a conviction. Murder was well overcharged, as Mr. LoRusso said. I thought that would be the ending.
Where do we go from here? Do you think we will see a civil case? And what about federal charges of violating his civil rights?
I definitely think the family will file a civil case. I actually had not considered a federal lawsuit. I think at this point the family just needs to heal. I don't know if pursuing things like that's really in their best interest at this point.
Mr. LoRusso?
I think there will be a civil case. I think there have been attorneys, I think Jenny's right, they've already set up and they're looking at that. I think the other issue you have to look at from people who are talking about a federal criminal civil rights violation, the federal authorities decided this was not a hate crime early on in the case. So I don't know that they're going to go forward with that, especially, you know, this was not a 15-minute verdict. This was 16 hours, and people forget they were going about doing their things while they were waiting for the jury to come in, but those jurors sat in a room by themselves for 16 hours. That's a lot of time to look over everything.
Lastly, do you think there was politics in this prosecution?
I'll let you start if you want.
Who's going to touch that one?
I do. I think that when it originally happened, when Trayvon was killed, that George Zimmerman was not arrested. They didn't arrest him, and it wasn't until the media and politicians started,
and the family putting on the pressure.
And I think that that's part of the reason that the case had not been investigated to the point of a successful trial, because it wasn't something that was going to be done, and then the pressure came on.
All right. Well, we thank you both. The country is watching. We appreciate all your insight this Sunday morning, and we ask you to stay with Fox 5 for the very latest on this controversial case, both locally and nationwide.
Fox 5 net cam from the Glen Hotel, looking back at downtown Atlanta. I think I see some blue up there.
I know. I was going to say that's a little deceptive because
do not adjust your sets, right? I think that we see some blue sky perhaps.
There may be places that are seeing some sunshine, but also some places seeing rain. Paul will talk about all of that coming up in just a few minutes. In the meantime, we are talking some healthy summer eating. How about that? It's a great time of year when we try to look our best, but there's also a lot of temptation to eat all the wrong food.
Good days to